supported. Check out grimerica.ca/support for all the different options there.
Yeah, and if you've got a...
And we have no more T-shirts.
No, we don't have any more T-shirts. But we will probably make some.
We might, we'll probably make some more.
My buddy at the post office...
Maybe some stickers, too.
My buddy at the post office wants us to do, just tell me what kind of T-shirt he wanted. Pretty funny. Green, red, or blue, and make your big guy smoking the doobie on the front. It's pretty funny.
There you go. There you have it.
But if you subscribed already, you don't have to change a thing, right? That's a question some people have had.
Now you guys have a rite of passage. You are now on a subscription plan that no longer exists.
Right? Okay.
So there's 24 of you. Now the new options range anywhere from $1 to $30 a month, as we had people express interest in different values depending on, some people have more spare money than others and can afford more. That's just the way it is. Right. So we like to open that up. And, of course, the main way to support the show costs you nothing at all, and that is just telling other people to listen to the show.
Can they still get an email address through one of those options?
Yeah.
Okay, and then...
basically, I guess we can go with anything over $5 a month gets you the email address if you like it.
Okay, and then the Bitcoin, they can also throw their change.
Yeah, there's a Bitcoin option.
Bitcoin
and there's
jar there.
Yeah, we do get some Bitcoins from time to time. We have that one listener who sends us Bitcoins all the time. Actually, he wants to have he's got a guy who wants us to have on. I was checking it out. I think we should pop him in.
For sure.
He's a loyal supporter. So,
yeah.
Of course, our loyal supporters, when they send us guests, we listen when everyone sends us guests. But if it's someone who's supporting the show and been around a long time, they definitely take them seriously, for sure.
Yeah, and we've got some local people that opened up a float lab. They wanna come on the show.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, Lisa wants to do a float.
Awesome.
I want to go to a float. We can have a show about floating.
Yeah, maybe we'll get them in the studio.
Yeah, or we can maybe go there. We'll see.
Or maybe we can get them in the studio.
Maybe. And we have to clean it up.
Yeah,
Lisa just cleaned it a while ago, and it's already degraded.
But
we're getting more and more technologically advanced as we go.
Yeah, that's good. So we've got coming up. Do we need to talk about this stuff, or do we do it in the outro?
We did it in the outro.
All right, so just listen to the outro for who's coming up next, live, and who's coming up released.
Yep. And thanks for listening. Support the show. Sign up for Justin's newsletter, grimerica.ca/news. Enjoy the chat with Eve Lorgen, and we will see you in the outro. Okay, guys, we're going to be chatting with Eve Lorgen this afternoon in Grimerica. A little bonus app. She has a webinar coming up at the end of the month, so we figured we'd pop this one out right away and try and get as many of you guys to pop over and check it out as we can. How's it going, buddy?
Hey, I'm doing well.
You smell well today.
Yeah, it's an early afternoon. It's an early afternoon podcast. It's not like the after work stale scent of me. Darren, you shouldn't.
I prefer the stale. I prefer the stale grab.
Oh, so anyways, I'm a bit nervous for this one. I've been wanting to talk about this for a while now, and a friend of mine sent me a link to Eve Lorgen, and I started looking at her website and stuff, and I was like, this seems perfect. This is who we need to talk to about anomalous trauma. So Eve has been, researching and consulting in regards to anomalous trauma for a while. She offers hypnotherapy and coaching. She's written a couple books. Latest two are The Love Bite, and that's like alien interference in human love relationships, and The Dark Side of Cupid. She's been researching alien and UFO abductions, and she's Anasara yogi and writer, and she began She's got her master's degree in counseling psychology, and she started a support group in 1994 in San Diego for this stuff. So there's lots to talk about here. It's going to be a good free-flowing conversation about trauma and maybe how we can help people. And so we're happy to have you here. Welcome to the Grimerica Show, Eve.
Well, thank you for having me. And I just want to make a short correction. I don't mean to, but actually I'm a Ashtanga yogi as well as Anusara, but the Anusara doesn't exist anymore.
Oh,
technically. So I'll just say Ashtanga, and then I do yoga as a way to actually help balance out really all that I do. Because if anyone has read my website or my books, they'll find that anomalous trauma can be quite overwhelming, and sometimes a lot of the darker elements of human experience people come to me for. So I need to balance that out in my own life, to try to relax and do yoga and meditate and do all these other positive things to really kind of clear the energy when I work with people. So just wanted to let that out there.
No,
There's really good. A lot involved. I mean, more than just the alien abduction experience, but that's actually how it started out. Many years ago, I had an interest because of my own personal experiences with the alien abduction phenomena and paranormal events all throughout my life and my family. And I wanted to learn more about it. And at the time, I read Bud Hopkins' books and Jacques Vallée's books way back, I think in the late 70s and the early 80s. And at that time, I really wasn't aware of my own experiences in depth. And I thought they were all, let's say, positive, hoping that they were like positive ETs and stuff. But I kind of discovered that it was actually a combination of some of the darker elements as well as neutral, and then some seemingly positive. So it was really a whole plethora of experiences. So I learned more about myself and also the subject matter through research until I got my degree in counseling psychology, with the emphasis of really working with family and marriage and family and transpersonal, as well as hypnotherapy. So that kind of got me started with that element. I was actually a biochemist before that and studied Oriental medicine as well. Although I was disenchanted with the biochem field, I actually got poisoned from a job from working with toxins and biohazards, wow. Which took me a long time to clean it out of my system and to get healthy again. So I'm glad to do something else where I could just work with people and with their minds and psychology. I find that more interesting, even though I was a scientist and can think scientifically and, the scientific hypothesis and reasoning and all that. So, so it really wasn't until the early 1990s that I started working in person with people who've had, let's say, the alien abduction experience or UFO sightings, missing time, or even paranormal things like near-death experiences, or people who had MK Ultra or ritual abuse, or what I call the MILAB experience, which I really got into that a lot more because a lot of people came in for that. In that area of Southern California, there just happened to be a lot of the MILAB kind of experiences. So really, there's so much here. Who really inspired me probably in the beginning, of course, was Jacques Vallée, as well as Barbara Bartholic, Bud Hopkins, Carla Turner. Mm-hmm. Carla Turner in particular was the one who really inspired me. And I was lucky enough to see her speak in San Diego in the spring of 1995, which was one of her last public speaking engagements before she died in January of 1996 of breast cancer. And it was known amongst the private circles of the people who knew her personally, like Barbara Bartholic and some of my colleagues like James Bartley, that Carla Turner really, this was not a natural death. Let's just put it that way. It was something that was orchestrated. And I think she was put out because of the alarming things that she did say at the time about the malevolent aspects of the alien abduction experience with respect to the reptilian part and the military abduction angle. And at that time, people wanted to either believe that it was all positive ETs or all the negative things would be just the human military and be kind of this black and white kind of thing. But in reality, there's a lot going on sometimes within the same person's experience over many experiences. They may have a collection of different, like positive, negative, neutral, and everything in between. Mm-hmm. So really, she brought out a lot of the things that weren't being discussed within what I thought was a narrowly circumscribed definition of the alien abduction or the alien encounter phenomena. Because as we have learned over the years, it's really, very much of it is interdimensional in nature, although not all of it. And there certainly are people who have, the classic UFO encounter with missing time, with physical evidence and medical evidence and that kind of thing. And it does happen. So there's all those things that happen.
How did Carla die, actually?
Well, she died of, it was breast cancer, but it moved all over her body. And I know that she got taken before that in an abduction where I believe they did something to her and, basically threatened her. And there was also an engineered car accident kind of thing that had occurred when she was still being taken. I mean, she and her family were people who had experienced alien abductions in their lives. And she even wrote a book about that. Her first book was called Into the Fringe, which was about their personal experiences. And I think she lived in Arkansas and Barbara Bartholock was in Oklahoma. So a lot of her experiences were basically in those areas of the United States. So, yeah, she definitely inspired me because she reported things that other people were reporting in my support group, as well as my own experiences that weren't being talked about. But really, one of the biggest things that I thought was of great importance after working with people for a while, let's say doing support groups and trying to get people together to come to my home, every so often was actually quite a momentous task to get a number of people together at the same time, because what would happen is there would be a lot of what I call the interruptions and, for lack of a better term, spiritual warfare and distractions and disruptions that would occur to prevent people from coming together to share information about their experiences. And this was a consistent thing that happened over and over again, so much so that that's what I first started really writing about way back in like 1996, 1997. Some of my first articles were not only about the, quote, truth detracting elements, but also about the implant surgeries that Dr. Roger Lear and Daryl Sims corresponded with. And I was present at like in 1995, where they actually did do some surgical removal of alien implants from 5 people. And I did a interview with all of those people like together and did an article about that, as well as the fluorescence phenomena, which happens sometimes after people have been abducted. If they scan their skin with a UV black light in a darkened room, sometimes you will see certain kinds of spots or even certain marks.
Hand marks and stuff?
Yeah, they're like brand marks, like there's specific symbols that may show up. So you have to basically rule out, whether or not it's some kind of something in your natural environment, which you would do, you'd know how to do. But that was something that Daryl Sims brought out and then I wrote about because I was a biochemist and I kind of understood a little bit of that, like what kinds of things will fluoresce and why they fluoresce and blah, blah, blah. So, but really what I felt was more important was really not so much the scientific aspects, although they're important, but was what I called the manipulation and orchestration of their lives on other levels that went beyond, let's say, the medical exams of the classic alien abduction experience. Things like setting people up in love relationships and then basically doing all this emotional testing and training and putting people together in love dramas, which Barbara Bartholock actually had worked with this for years and had seen this. And in addition to everything else, right? She called it the drama of the love obsession. And that was something that would happen to quite a few of the people who were having what I call the multiple alien encounter experiences, which means these are the kinds of people who tend to have it in their family line and may have multiple encounters, abductions, visitations over their life.
And is this what you wrote about in your book, The Love Bite?
Yes. And that was basically case histories of people who knew that they had their relationships, usually the love relationships, orchestrated. They were either pre-bonded several times throughout childhood and adulthood and then set up with someone by the aliens, or they were set up, maybe they didn't remember all the details of pre-bonding, but they definitely had, there was like a characteristic of what would happen, how that would manifest out in a relationship pattern with all the unusual synchronicities and omens and heightened love obsession. The emotions would be very heightened. The telepathic connection between them and the, quote, targeted partner was magnified such that, they may even have shared dreams or like a empathy and telepathy that was much beyond the norm, that they even had, let's say, in their marriages. So it was definitely a syndrome that played itself out with a lot of high emotional drama and paranormal activity, as well as an increased, let's say, alien visitations during the